Welcome, brothers and sisters. We will finish today this paper 76 by doing an extra live Urantia book reading. Also, because tomorrow I do not have the moment to do this. The last chapters or sections of this paper 76 is all about the violet rays that Adam and Eve brought to Urantia, about the death of Adam and Eve and the survival of Adam and Eve, which means the survival outside this planet Urantia, and what happened to them. All right, let's start with the reading. Okay, this screen share so you can read along with me. All right, section 4, the violet rays. Adam and Eve were the founders of the violet race of man, the 9th human race to appear on Urantia. We will discuss in a later moment about the other races, 8 races of Urantia, and 2 of the second group is the Sangic races, which are the colored races, the red race, the orange, the yellow, the green, the blue, and the indigo races. And later, number 7 is the violet race, which has been brought to us by Adam and Eve, and which has been brought to Urantia, better said, by Adam and Eve. And then we have the race that stems from Andon and Fonta, the first human mother and father. So that is another one. Adam and Eve, Adam and his offspring, had blue eyes, and the violet peoples were characterized by fair complexions and light hair color, yellow, red, and brown. Or you can say brunette, because sometimes this also is being called brunette. Eve did not suffer pain in childbirth, neither did the early evolutionary races. Only the mixed races produced by the union of evolutionary man with the Nodites and later with the Adamites suffered the severe pangs of childbirth. Adam and Eve, like their brethren on Jerusalem, were energized by dual nutrition. And Jerusalem is the headquarters of our local system, Satania, Later on, maybe today, but otherwise somewhere later in the week, I will do a short presentation about this local universe Nebadon. I have now a Kindle version of this book. You hardly can see it. Well, you cannot see it. This is a book called Urantia Ascenders Handbook. It's been written by a fellow sister known as Hara Davis, and I will go through this book through a Kindle version. So then I can give this introduction and a beginning step of the local universe Nebadon. All right. Adam and Eve, like their brethren on Jerusalem, were energized by dual nutrition, subsisting on both food and light, supplemented by certain superphysical energies unrevealed on Urantia. Their Urantia offspring did not inherit the parental endowment of energy intake and light circulation. They had a single circulation, the human type of blood sustenance. They were designedly mortal, though long-lived, albeit longevity gravitated toward the human norm with each succeeding generation. Adam and Eve and their first generation of children did not use the flesh of animals for food. As we can see in the world, there is a difference. There's a changement going on, which means that the energies are changing in a way that more and more people can live longer without flesh. So listen to your body. If your body does not long for flesh, don't eat it. Is the body telling you that it needs some flesh in the form of chicken or whatever, then just do. But we do not have to eat everyday meat. That is ridiculous. So they subsisted wholly upon the fruits of the trees. After the first generation, all of the descendants of Adam began to partake of dairy products, but many of them continued to follow a non-flesh diet. Many of the southern tribes with whom they later united were also non-flesh eaters. Later on, most of these vegetarian tribes migrated to the east and survived as now admixed in the peoples of India. And we can see that we are being enforced into a plant-based diet, veganism, vegetarianism. Brothers and sisters, do not listen to what other people tell you that you should eat and do, but listen to your body. If your body longs for a period of non-meat, you go non-meat. Does your body long for more vegetables, or just eat more vegetables? If your body longs for a more fruity or a diet based on fruit and nuts, then do so. But keep it to the body and do not have your will placed on it. Both the physical and spiritual visions of Adam and Eve were far superior to those of the present-day peoples. Their special senses were much more acute, and they were able to see the midwayers and the angelic hosts, the Melchizedeks and the fallen prince Caligustia, who several times came to confer with his noble successor. They retained the ability to see these celestial beings for over 100 years after the default. These special senses were not so acutely present in their children and tended to diminish with each succeeding generation. The Adamic children were usually adjuster indwelt since they all possessed undoubted survival capacity. These superior offspring were not so subject to fear as the children of evolution. So much of fear persists in the present day races of Urantia because your ancestors received so little of Adam's life plasm, owing to the early miscarriage of the plans for racial physical uplift. The body cells of the material sons and their progeny are far more resistant to disease than are those of the evolutionary beings indigenous to the planet. The body cells of the native races are akin to the living diseasing producing microscopic and ultramicroscopic organisms of the realm. These facts explain why the Urantia peoples must do so much by way of scientific effort to withstand so many physical disorders. You would be far more disease resistant if your races carried more of the Adamic life. After becoming established in the second garden on the Euphrates, Adam elected to leave behind as much of his life plasm as possible to benefit the world after his death. Accordingly, Eve was made the head of a commission of 12 on race improvement, and before Adam died, this commission had selected 1,682 of the highest type of women on Urantia, and these women were impregnated with the Adamic life plasm. Their children all grew up to maturity except 112, so that the world in this way was benefited by the addition of 1,570 superior men and women. Though these candidate mothers were selected from all the surrounding tribes and represented most of the races on earth, the majority were chosen from the highest strains of the Nodites, and they constituted the early beginnings of the mighty Andite race. Andite means that you have the life plasm of Andon in you, Andon and Fonta, the first human parents. These children were born and reared in the tribal surroundings of their respective mothers. Section 5. Death of Adam and Eve. Not long after the establishment of the second Eden, Adam and Eve were duly informed that their repentance was acceptable, and that while they were doomed to suffer the fate of the mortals of their world, they should certainly become eligible for admission to the ranks of the sleeping survivors of Urantia. They fully believed this gospel of resurrection and rehabilitation, which the Melchizedek so touchingly proclaimed to them. Their transgression had been an error of judgment, and not the sin of conscious and deliberate rebellion. Adam and Eve did not, as citizens of Jerusalem, have thought adjusters, nor were they adjuster indwelt when they functioned on Urantia in the first garden. But shortly after their reduction to mortal status, they became conscious of a new presence within them and awakened to the realization that human status, coupled with sincere repentance, had made it possible for adjusters to indwell them. It was this knowledge of being adjuster indwelled that greatly heartened Adam and Eve throughout the remainder of their lives. They knew that they had failed as material sons of Satania, but they also knew that the paradise career was still open to them as ascending sons of the universe. Adam knew about the dispensational resurrection, which occurred simultaneously with his arrival on the planet. Dispensational resurrection means that all the sleeping people, which we call the dead people, as a matter of fact, they are in a deep sleep, that all these people will be resurrected in the first mentioned world. In the Bible, it is being stated, and I think this is done by Paul, because Paul did not understood this topic, in which it's being stated that we have to bring people out of their status of death, that we have to resurrect them. Well, this is not the case. We are not able to do this, and it's not on us to do so. Dispensational, and so the resurrection of the sleeping people will always be done as soon as a new Son of God arrives on a planet, then a new dispensational resurrection comes. And so Adam, he believed that he and his companion would probably re-personalized in connection with the advent of the next order of sonship. He did not know that Michael, the sovereign of this universe, was so soon to appear on Urantia. He expected that the next son to arrive would be of the Avonal order. Even so, it was always a comfort to Adam and Eve, as well as something difficult for them to understand, to ponder the only personal message they ever received from Michael. This message, among other expressions of friendship and comfort, said, "I have given consideration to the circumstances of your default. I have remembered the desire of your hearts ever to be loyal to my Father's will, and you will be called from the embrace of mortal slumber when I come to Urantia, if the subordinate sons of my realm do not send for you before that time." And this was a great mystery to Adam and Eve. They could comprehend the veiled promise of a possible special resurrection in this message, and such a possibility greatly cheered them, but they could not grasp the meaning of the intimation that they might rest until the time of a resurrection associated with Michael's personal appearance on Urantia. And so the Edenic pair always proclaimed that a Son of God would sometime come, and they communicated to their loved ones the belief, at least the longing hope, that the world of their blunders and sorrows might possibly be the realm whereon the ruler of this universe would elect to function as the paradise bestowal son. It seemed too good to be true, but Adam did entertain the thought that strife-torn Urantia might, after all, turn out to be the most fortunate world in the system of Satania, the envied planet of all Nebadon, And this is something we should ponder upon, and in actuality, we should take a break by this saying, because it is a fortunate situation. We do not realize this because of the lack of background of this information, and so it doesn't, it better said, it isn't being preached to us about this fortunate situation. Adam lived for 530 years. He died of what might be termed old age. So in the Bible, it is being stated that Adam lives 930 years. So this is a different age than is being described here in the Urantia book. He died of what might be termed old age. His physical mechanism simply wore out. The process of disintegration gradually gained on the process of repair, and the inevitable end came. Eve had died 19 years previously of a weakened heart. So when she was 511 years old. They were both buried in the center of the Temple of Divine Service, which had been built in accordance with their plans soon after the wall of the colony had been completed, and this was the origin of the practice of burying noted and pious men and women under the floors of the places of worship. The material government of Urantia under the direction of the Melchizedeks continued, but direct physical contact with the evolutionary races had been severed. From the distant days of the arrival of the corporal staff of the planetary prince, down through the times of Van and Amadon to the arrival of Adam and Eve, physical representatives of the universe government had been stationed on the planet. But with the Adamic default, this regime, extending over a period of more than 450,000 years, came to an end. In the spiritual spheres, angelic helpers continued to struggle in conjunction with the thought adjusters, both working heroically for the salvage of the individual. But no comprehensive plan for far-reaching world welfare was promulgated to the mortals of Earth until the arrival of Makiventa Melchizedek in the times of Abraham. So I would recommend you to go back to these life book readings all about Makiventa Melchizedek to refresh your memory of who he was and why he was here. Who, with the power, patience, and authority of a Son of God, did lay the foundations for the further uplift and spiritual rehabilitation of unfortunate Urantia. Misfortune has not, however, been the sole lot of Urantia. This planet has also been the most fortunate in the local universe of Nebadon. Urantians should count it all gain if the blunders of their ancestors and the mistakes of their early world rulers so plunged the planet into such a hopeless state of confusion, all the more confounded by evil and sin, that this very background of darkness should so appeal to Michael of Nebadon that he selected this world as the arena wherein to reveal the loving personality of the Father in heaven. It is not that Urantia needed a creator son to set its tangled affairs in order. It is rather that the evil and sin on Urantia afforded the Creator Son a more striking background against which to reveal the matchless love, mercy, and tremendous patience of the Paradise Father. And He has a tremendous patience with us, His children here on earth. Um, and this is something we often forget, that our Father in heaven is a very, very, very patientful Father. Uh, if He sees what we are doing as His children, then yeah, I would say I wish I had such a tremendous patience. So point 6, the last section of this uh, paper 76, which is all about the survival of Adam and Eve after they have left Urantia. Adam and Eve went to their mortal rest with strong faith in the promises made to them by the Melchizedeks that they would sometime awake from the sleep of death to resume life on the mentioned worlds. Worlds all so familiar to them in the days preceding their mission in the material flesh of the violet race on Urantia. They did not long rest in the oblivion of the unconscious sleep of the mortals of the realm on the third day after Adam's death, the second following his reverent burial. The orders of Lanaforge, sustained by the acting Most High of Edensia and concurred in by the union of days on Selfington, acting for Michael, were placed in Gabriel's hands, and the union of days, that is Emmanuel, directing the special roll call of the distinguished survivors of the Adamic default on Urantia, and in accordance with the mandate of special resurrection. Number 26 of the Urantia series. Adam and Eve were repersonalized and reassembled in the resurrection halls of the mentioned worlds of Satania, together with 1,316 of their associates in the experience of the first garden. Many other loyal souls had already been translated at the time of Adam's arrival, which was attended by a dispensational adjunction of both the sleeping survivors and the living qualified ascenders. Adam and Eve quickly passed through the worlds of progressive ascension until they attained citizenship on Jerusalem, once again to be residents of the planet of their origin, but this time as members of a different order of universe personalities. They left Jerusalem as permanent citizens. Sons of God, they returned as ascendant citizens, sons of man. They were immediately attached to the Urantia surface on the system capital, later being assigned membership among the 24 counselors who constitute the present advisory control body of Urantia. And thus ends the story of the planetary Adam and Eve of Urantia, a story of trial, tragedy, and triumph, at least personal triumph for your well-meaning, but deluded material son and daughter, and undoubtedly in the end a story of ultimate triumph for their world and its rebellion-tossed and evil harassed inhabitants. When all is summed up, Adam and Eve made a mighty contribution to the speedy civilization and accelerated biologic progress of the human race. They left a great culture on earth. They left us music, humor, and a great way of fabricating art, but it was not possible for such an advanced civilization to survive in the face of the early delusion and the eventual submergence of the Adamic inheritance. It is the people who make a civilization. Civilization does not make the people. With this said, I have come to the end of reading paper 76, and also have we come to the end of the story and the in-depth background about Adam and Eve, about the first Garden of Eden and the second Garden of Eden, also about the history of the former planetary Prince Caligastia of this planet Urantia. All the information so far presented to us has been presented by Solonia, the seraphic voice in the garden. And I want to say thank you, Solonia, you beautiful seraphic angel, for handing over to us all this important information so that we get a deeper background story that corrects the Bible version and brings us the corrections that we need to know so that we get a deeper understanding of the history of the beginning times of this planet Earth known as Urantia. So thank you, Solonia, for giving us this information. And with this said, I will close off by saying thank you so much for listening and reading along with me. I wish you all a beautiful day, and please set all the information that you have learned yourself or have heard from others, a Bible or other ancient texts, please set it aside. Take this information with an open mind, open heart, and ponder upon it with the help of the Holy Spirit and the Spirit of Truth. And let them give you a more in-depth background clarification of all the information that you have heard through all these live book readings from the past 2.5 weeks. All right, God bless you, and let us listen